is Sophie here from IBT Online, and in today's video, I am joined by Susanna Hardy.
Hi, everybody.
And today we will be talking about website localization and what it means to localize your website and why it's important for businesses to do so to help you grow your export sales, brand, and business.
Fantastic. Let's get started. So one of the things we're hearing a lot from clients these days are about the different priorities they have as a company. You know, obviously looking after employees, obviously cash flow and supply chains, but a lot of companies are really emphasizing to us this need to generate sales, maintain their export levels, grow their business overseas internationally, and how to do that in the new pandemic. And this is what we're really focused on, especially today. And I guess just to set the scene a little bit, it's worth sort of remembering some of the very big numbers on the top. So these slides here, this information from Hootsuite, I was very grateful for those Hootsuite numbers. October 2020, 4.66 billion people, that's 60% of the world population, is online. Not just online occasionally, like once a month. The average is nearly 7 hours a day. 7 hours a day, nearly 4.7 billion people. So at least you all know where to find prospects and your clients. They're all online.
Absolutely, and they are communicating. So 53% of the population that are online are actually using social media actively, meaning, not just your grandma who logs on once every month or once every 2 months, but instead people who are logging on once a day, multiple times a day, and that's 53% of internet users. And not only that, but 43% of internet users actually use social media for work purposes. So not just to communicate with their friends and figure out what's going on with their social life, but also using it for their work. So that's really important to keep in mind as a B2B business as well. And not only that, but people are spending about 2.5 hours a day on social media. So they are communicating with each other, they're communicating for work purposes, they're on these platforms 2.5 hours a day. And somebody who's actually benefited a lot from it, and a platform that I'm on every day, is LinkedIn. LinkedIn has said that they've seen interaction on their platform go up tremendously because they're trying to keep companies are trying to stay on top of people's minds. They're trying to stay relevant to their prospects, to their potential customers, to their current clients, suppliers, distributors. So when things do go back to normal, that they will be on top of people's minds still. And their numbers absolutely back that up. So the number of conversations between its members on LinkedIn jumped 55% from March in the same time last year. And not only that, but their broadcasts have gone up tremendously as well, with it tripling since February, and people on these broadcasts have become much more chatty with one another, with the number of comments surging at 272%. So this is all really good news for exporters, especially because the numbers are growing. 321 million people became internet users from the same time last year, so from October last year. And over 453 million people joined social media, a 12.3% increase. And just to kind of put these numbers into perspective, they are about the same or a little larger than the population of the United States. So a huge number of people that you can actually begin to communicate with online.
And I guess the message really is, yes, a huge number of people that you can communicate with online, 4.7 billion. Spending 7 hours a day, and as Samantha said, 2.5 hours of that is communicating, but it's really for everyone. Online is for everyone. So it's not just B2C companies that should be using all these tools. B2B companies need to also realize that this is the best way to communicate with their prospects and their existing clients at this time. Remember always, when you're communicating online, the end person, even if it's another B2B company that you're selling to, it's also an individual. It's also a person. 94% of all B2B purchases are researched online before you call a sales rep. 70% of searches, B2B searches, start with a very generic term like CRM software as opposed to a brand. So again, it's just that everybody is an individual, everybody's online, and it's not just for B2C companies. In fact, social media used for B2B research has really seen a big increase here. And again, you need to harness that and take advantage of that to nurture your brand. You know, online tools are a tremendous leveler. They allow B2B companies, B2C companies, any kind of company to interact on a global sphere, on a global map, and to punch above their weight and compete directly with major, huge conglomerates. If they're using the internet correctly, they can reach global markets and they can communicate with everyone these days. So that's the main message that we wanted to bring across. And I guess if you're looking at this, you know, why do exporters need a localized online presence? I guess for us, the key message is the world is online. And that's good news for companies. You know exactly where your prospects and your clients are, and you know exactly how to communicate with them, all using online tools. The other point I think is that this pandemic and this new normal, as it's being called, has accelerated the use of online tools. And effective online business tools now are really an important must-have to get found, be understood, and be easy to do business with.
Yeah, thanks, Susanna. And now that we've covered the why, so why do you need to be online? Why do you need to even care about this stuff? We can get into the how. So the how is, we have two separate pieces. First, we have the website. So whether you're B2B, B2C, B2G, whether your website is e-commerce enabled or informational, or if it has client portals, that is one piece of the circle. And the other piece is your online marketing. So search engine marketing, social media marketing, email marketing, reporting and analytics, content marketing, all of that fun stuff to complement your online presence for both for the US and internationally. And you need both pieces, because before it was okay to just have your US website and update it every now and then, maybe post a blog once every 6 months and call it a day. But now that the online environment is much more competitive, there's many more people in the sphere, you need to become more relevant. You need to stay top of mind of the search engines. You need to stay top of mind of your prospects, both internationally and domestically. So you need to have that online marketing to support your online presence. And in practice, this is what it would look like. So first you would have your US website as kind of like your real estate for the US market, and it'll have its communication policy surrounding it. So you'll have your search engine marketing, your social media marketing, all feeding leads, followers to your US website. And that's one kind of real estate. Then for your international markets, you need to have a similar kind of presence. So for Brazil and for France in this example, they have localized websites for the Brazilian market, for the French market, dedicated to that specific buyer persona. So it'll have SEO and social media marketing all funneling into their Brazilian presence for that buyer persona, and then for their France website for that buyer persona. And what's important to keep in mind in this sort of structure is to maintain that brand consistency. So your Brazilian and your French websites will have a very similar look, feel, function to your US website, except it'll be localized for those specific places, for those specific buyer personas. And I know I've said buyer persona a few times, and I want to make sure that we're very clear on what that is. So a buyer persona is a semi-fictional representation of your ideal customer based on market research and what your current customer base looks like. And the point about defining your buyer persona, both domestically and internationally, is to allow you to make sure that you're reaching out to the right person at the right time with the right message, saving both yourself and your company a ton of time and resources. So as an example, we have Zipcar, which for the US market, they are so clear as to who their buyer persona is. They are looking for people who are urban, educated, tech savvy, and environmentally conscious. They're so confident that they actually included it in their mission statement. And their communication policy, so their social media marketing, their search engine marketing is reflective of who their buyer persona is. So in this Instagram example, you see that there's these two people are young, they're urban, they look environmentally conscious because they're holding plants. And Zipcar actually goes a step further in using the appropriate hashtags for their buyer persona. So things like hashtag back to school, hashtag dorm life, hashtag plants. But if you don't know who your buyer persona is, it's really easy to kind of get started. So just get your marketing and your sales team together and have them talk about who they're currently selling to, who their ideal customer looks like, and that's just a wonderful place to start. But it's important to keep in mind that your international buyer persona probably is going to look very different from your domestic buyer persona. So on this slide, there's a few questions that you can start asking yourself. Like, are there multiple buyer personas for my export markets? How do they find me? What do they care about? How do they like to interact with me? And this slide, we have a really good example of how those buyer personas are put into action. So L'Oreal is frequently cited for how spot on their international online marketing is. So in this first snapshot, we have L'Oreal talking to its US stylists towards the beginning of the pandemic, when things were shutting down, people were socially distancing, people were quarantining, people weren't getting their hair done. So this is L'Oreal talking to their stylists in their salon saying, hey, we're here for you. We are here to help you through these difficult times. However, if you look at the Australian example, there is no mention, zero mention of COVID-19, of coronavirus, of social distancing, nothing. Instead, there's a high focus on the climate. And this is probably because of the fires that Australia suffered earlier on this year. So they know that that's what matters to their buyer persona, and that's what they're speaking to in their snapshot of their website. In the last example, L'Oreal is demonstrating to its Brazilian consumers that they're doing their part to help the people of Brazil in these difficult times by producing hand sanitizer, which is something that they don't normally produce. So they're supporting the communities that need it the most. So as you can see, each buyer persona is clearly different and their messaging is respectful of that.
And that's a great example of how all the internet, whether it's the websites or online marketing, is always customer-centric. In other words, searcher-centric in this case. So in each case, localized website means, for L'Oreal, means that they're addressing a local buyer persona, making sure that their website and their message is relevant to the local buyer persona, so the local person in the local markets. Because everything on the web, whether it's a search engine, whether it's a YouTube, whether it's your websites or online marketing, always has the searcher at the center of it. And this is in a sense where you can see this very well with search engines like, for example, Google. Google in the US is different from Google, let's say, in Germany, or Google that you would have in Mexico, or even a Google in the UK is different, because Google in each case decides what is the most relevant for my local searcher. So Google searches through something like 3.5 billion searches per second to find the most relevant search for you. And if your website is not localized, is not relevant for the local buyer persona, Google will not rank it highly. So it's just as simple as that. So why can't you use your US website to go global? You can't, because Google, the search engines, do not believe that your US website is relevant for that global market.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. And you can see it in practice in the slide. So Susanna and I, we both have really adorable dogs, but they always seem to make noise when we're trying to film these videos. So we both searched for squeakless dog toys on our appropriate Googles. So me being in Miami, Florida, I searched for squeakless dog toys on google.com, and Susanna searched for it on google.co.uk. And obviously we got different results. We got things that were very relevant to each individual user. So I got things that I'm very comfortable with and I'm very familiar with, things like Chewy.com, Amazon.com, and even Yahoo with a relevant little piece of content. And then Susanna got things I've never heard of, but are relevant to her. Things like barksandbunnies.co.uk, timeforpause.co.uk, and even Amazon.co.uk. So the same search on different search engines got us different results. And this actually comes down to individual keywords as well. So you have to understand who your buyer persona is and their language to make sure that your website is relevant to them. So in this example, we have car in Spanish in two ways, auto and coche. So if you're a company that sells parts and trinkets for cars and you're selling into Mexico, you need to make sure that you're using auto in your website and your social media marketing, because 73% of people in Mexico use auto versus the 27% that use coche. However, if you're looking to sell into the Spain market, you definitely want to use the word coche, because 91% of people use the word coche versus only 9% who use auto. So if you're trying to sell into the Spanish market, into Spain, and all of your communication policy, your website, your social media marketing, everything has the word auto versus coche, you're going to be much, much more difficult for your buyer persona to find. But it's important to keep in mind that, you know, translation, keywords is only one aspect, although a very important aspect of website localization. On this slide, you have other things that you need to take into consideration, like making sure that your website is compliant to regulatory standards, making sure that it's hosted optimally within the country, domain names, mobilely enabled, making sure that the design is appealing to the local user experience. All of these things that you need to take into consideration for your localized websites. And as Susanna mentioned before, this is all to make yourself relevant to the specific Googles, so that Google knows that that website is designed specifically for that market, making you much more easy to be found, to be understood, and to do business with.
This is a great example here. This is actually a B2B company, the analytics for a B2B company's website. And you can see that, you know, this is their Australian website. And this is a website that was created in order for them to be relevant in Australia. Google thinks it's so good that up to 90% of people who go to this website are from Australia and New Zealand. You know, and the remaining 10% are distributed between other English-speaking countries, you know, sort of India, UK, or US. But 90% are relevant to Australia and New Zealand. So that is a localized website, and that's what it would look like on a Google Analytics.
Yeah, thanks for that example. I think that just really is such a great demonstration of how a localized website done well can work for a company, even a B2B company. So now that we've talked about why even bother going online, what the online tools are, and what they do to help you be found, be understood, and be easier to do business with in those markets, here are a few ways that website localization can help you, practically speaking. So as a company, it can help you reach new markets, it can help you support your distributors, it can help you recruit new distributors, it can help in lead generation, expand into new markets, support old markets. Whatever your goals are, you can tip and tailor your localized websites accordingly for your top target markets. And that map that you see there, the orange states that are highlighted, those are states that IBT Online has a program in, where there's either federal or state funding, or both, to help you get that localized online presence in your top target markets. So if you want to learn more about your specific state, you can go to our partners page on our website, click on your state, and it'll take you to your state dedicated page, where you can learn more about the grants, the programs available to you as a US company. So here on this slide, we have our options available to US exporters. So options A and B have to do with website localization. So what we talked about in this webinar, getting your website localized for your top target markets, whether you're B2B, B2C, doesn't matter. We can tip and tailor to your appropriate goals. Then options C and D have to do with international online marketing. So once you have your localized online presence, we can create a communication strategy around it. So search engine marketing, social media marketing, email marketing, content marketing, all of that fun stuff to help support your localized website in your top markets. And then we have option E. So if you're interested in e-commerce, we can create a dedicated e-commerce platform for your top target market with all of the functionality of a normal e-commerce platform that you would see for the States. So it's pretty great program. So if you have any questions at all regarding website localization, specific countries and their online environments, about the programs, about grants, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're always here. We're happy to help. And we're looking forward to talking to you guys.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to seeing you all, and get in touch. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.